Okay, today's project, after being asked twice in a week, is how to fix a hole in a wall that has a cavity behind it. So generally that would be gyprock or fibro, could be masonite or 3-ply, anything that has a cavity behind it that a hole's been knocked through it. So first I'll show you the back of the wall so you understand from the front what we're actually doing. So here we are at the back of the wall. Now you'll see that there are studs that go up and there's this board that goes across the bottom on the floor. There's probably one at the top. There could be some studs on the way down. And generally the cavity, depending on where you live in the world, where I live, that's about 7.5 centimetres. So you can see there's quite a gap here. This would be a brick wall maybe, might have boards, tin, whatever. So you've got this cavity created behind where things fall down, or if you live in one of those houses you might hear some rustling in here, and the old cartoons, this is where the mouse comes in the little hole and hides. So that's what the back looks like. So you know what, when we fix it from the front, what's going to happen at the back. Okay, back to the front of our wall here. Now, how might the hole get in the wall? Well, of a million ways. A bit of rough house. Generally, someone might have been going to put a picture up here, and they were hitting here, not over where the stud was. They couldn't find a hard place, so they give that one extra whack, and you created a hole. And let's say they went, oh bugger, and did it again and made it a bit bigger. Oh, what the hell, let's just one more. So now we have a decent sized hole here, and we've got that big drop away down the back of it there. So, hello, it's the hole. Okay, so now we've got our hole in the wall. One of the important things is, particularly if you're in a rental property or any property really, and let's say you've knocked a hole in the feature wall or even a white wall, because there's various colours of whites. What you want to try and do, and you might have to, you know, reach in and pull a piece off there, but you actually want to get a piece that came out of the wall, the bigger piece the better, that's still got the paint on it, because you can take that piece to the hardware or the paint shop and they'll scan it and match the paint to the rest of the wall. So if you've got a feature wall, you know, whatever it is, angel eye blue or plum, take that piece along and they'll match it up. Even if it's a white wall, there's white whites, yellow whites, blue whites, so match it up. So that's the first little trick to fixing this particular wall. Next bit is, now, if there's electricity in the wall, and you probably tell because there's a socket here, or there's a socket up there, or there's a socket over here against the wall. If there's power sockets near where the hole is, I'd suggest you probably get a professional in to fix it, or at least be very bloody careful, but it's not going to be exposed wise, but it's certainly covered wise, so you don't want to be going poking around here with metal things. So as long as there's sort of no power sockets anywhere to see, you're pretty safe, but you won't be able to know what's in the back like I know what's in the back. So stay away from power sockets. Otherwise, don't use anything metal, and I'll try not to use anything metal, and I'll try to use things that you might find in a normal house or be easily able to buy to do this repair. First thing, let's just try and clear around the back. So these bits that are hanging off, you can feel them with your finger. Just clear it off, because it'll make a better connection later. There's a big piece hanging down in there. See, that's like another piece you might be able to take to the hardware shop. Just going to make a bit to go on the back here. Alright, so generally cleared it up. Feels pretty flat around on the back, and we're ready to start the tricks to do the front. Okay, spectacles on. Next thing we're going to do is measure the hole at the widest spot. So which you can clearly see is across here, and about 6 6.5 centimetres. Then you want to measure the length of the hole. You're going to put something that goes behind the back, and let's say 22 will do. But what we're going to do is, for want of a better piece of wood, we're going to get something that goes behind it, because if you put plaster in here like this, obviously it's just going to fall down the hole in the back here, and you're going to have to fill it from here all the way up past here, which is obviously way too much plaster. So we're going to use a little trick to thread something through the back and put it back on it, and then we can put the plaster in the hole, if that makes sense. The trick is how to get the thing in there, because obviously you can't reach around the back of the hole like I can, and we're going to get it through there. So that's why we need the distance that is slightly less than the widest part of the hole, or if the hole was that way, you could put it in that way. But in this case, I've got a long hole that's wide in the middle. So about 6.5 centimetres is just, so I can push something through there, slide it up there, pull it at the back, and that'll create a back on the hole. So here we are with our hole. Now, you want to get something that you're going to push up in here, right? So I just happened to be on a farm, and so I found an old piece of wood. But you could use something like the hard cover off a book, as long as you can cut it down. Side of a Tupperware container, who needs those things anywhere? Tupperware lid. Anything that's flat, that's relatively stiff. You need it properly stiff. I've done them with book covers, and I've done them with a piece of cardboard. But what you're going to do is you're going to push it up in here. Now, you're going to say, I bet that's going to fall down the back, and you can't get it back. Well, here's the first of the tricks. So what you want to do is put a bit of string through the hole. So I've just got a bit off an old hay bale, but you could use a bit of string. You need it relatively tough. Piece of fishing line to do the trick. Just tie something on the back. You're never getting it back, whatever you tie on the back, so don't tie your wedding ring or something like that on the back. So, make sure you're hanging on to this end, because I have seen someone try and do this and drop it down the back. So here we go. So we're going to thread this up through the hole, and you can just, there's enough room in your cavity, probably easy for you, and then you're going to get this around so it forms a back. See, so you can just pull on it and it forms a back, and then you're going to be able to plaster. Now you're probably saying, does he really want me to sit there and hold this thing until all that's dry? No. Okay, pretty clear what the next part is. So you've got this up here to the back of your hole. Don't worry, we're going to glue that in a minute. But when it's glued, you need to be able to hold that tight for some time. Get a chair, get a fridge, get whatever, and you're going to be able to tie it to the chair. Put something heavy on here, a set of books, bowl full of water, whatever. Get an old person to sit on it for hours. Someone fall asleep. Yeah. So this is how you're going to do it. We're going to glue here, pull that into the glue till it dries, and then we're going to take this off the chair. So get yourself set up first, depending on the sort of glue that you use, but something like this so that you can anchor it, because glue might take half an hour or so on. But once you've got this set up, we can go about gluing this back on here. Now, depending on where you live, of course, and how close that you can get to hardware, you need a good glue. Something, these walls are a bit porous. Just got to pull out the air. For me, I'm using No More Nails, but you certainly can use any number of glues. Depending on how long you've got to fix it, of course, is how quick you need to dry. But something like liquid nails is good. I've got to stop putting my hand around the back because obviously you can't, right? So one way to do this, obviously hanging on to your string here, is get some of the no more nails. I like to, so you know you've got a good coverage, put it onto your finger like that, and you can feel where the flat bits are at the back. And you know, how much do you put on? I'm kind of the belief, you know, use the whole tube. But make sure you've got a nice fat ring right around the hole. We're just working our way around. Ladies can wear gloves if they like. And you'll feel behind where it's flat, where it's nice and flat anyway. And you want to get it right around the hole. I guess if you thought you were really clever, you could have put some on the piece of wood before you put it in the hole, but I kind of like to do it this way, then I know I've got a very nice coverage right around. Clearly if you're doing it above carpet, throw something on the floor like an old towel. That's about good enough. We've got enough. I can feel a good ring around that. Beauty. Now here's the trick. We bring our piece of wood back up and we get it around in the position that we want. Covering that hole. Give it a slide up and down. There it is. It's in place now. Now remember it was slightly thinner. If you get it at least to the edges, you'll be able to block up the edges, right? So there it is, stuck there. Get our chair across. Tie it off on the chair. Obviously don't pull it too tight. Keep it better off me than me. Okay, so now we're going to just wait until that liquid nails or glue, whichever glue you use, is set. So, and then we're going to cut this string off and that'll create the back. Now we can plaster the hole and all the plasters not falling down the back. So, just time. I'll sneak off and have a little wine and come back. Just so you can see what's happened behind here. So here's the washer that I tied on. It's gone across there. It's worked its way into the glue with a bit of movement. And this is just holding it on there. Yep, you can still see, maybe a tiny little gap on either side here. But we'll fill that up with plaster. But it has put a back on here now and stops everything dropping down here. So we're just waiting for this to dry. And then we're going to cut the string off. This will fall down in here, but the back will stay there glued on. Here we are back again. My, how time flies. So, we've allowed this to dry, and I say, always err on the side of caution. The longer you let it dry, the better. You give it a tap, just feel the glue. Has it dried? Yeah, it feels good because you kind of only get one chance of this. So then what you're going to do is take a pair of scissors and where that goes through the little hole, right, and I snip it off. And that, you can just push it in so it sits in there like that. Now, obviously get rid of the chair. And so you have a hole now, it's got a back on. We can start to get the plaster into the right place. Now, so far, that liquid nails that I used, the No More Nails, was only like $9 at the local hardware, that's Australian dollars. So it hasn't cost us that much so far to fix this little hole. About $9, and if you rip the cover off a book or a hard piece of cardboard, it probably cost you nothing anyway. So now to fill the hole with plaster is the next thing we've got to do. So here we have our plaster now. You know, there's plenty going to fill this hole. We don't want too much. The good thing about this one is it comes with a little spatula on it for putting it in the hole. But as you've probably seen from me, I like to kind of use my fingers. And it's as you'll see, it's quick dry plaster, it's polyfiller, it's whatever one you use, plaster or Paris, we're going to get it in here. So there's enough in this tube. Now, you don't want to be too harsh with this one, but what I like to do is, you remember those edges, is just give it a little push into the edges like this as you start filling the hole. Building it up. But you don't want any air spots in here because it'll show up later. So just filling that hole. It's water soluble, so don't worry about getting on your fingers. It's easy enough to get off later. So you kind of got it, and you can feel that you've got all those little air gaps out of it here. Oh, a bit of paper sticking out there. Probably a few plasterers out there saying he's doing it all wrong. So now you just want to keep filling that gap. Now, don't worry, because what you want to do is create a little mound on top. You're going to sandpaper it down, but it's better to have more in the hole than you need. So, a bit more up here. Better to have too much than not enough. And don't worry if it looks a little bit rough, because you're going to sandpaper it all back to smooth anyway. So, if it looks rough, don't worry about it. We're going to sand that down in the morning. Or this is quick dry stuff. Looks pretty good. There we go. Anybody can do that. Kind of bring back to your childhood where you're playing in the sand. But so now we've got a little mound I should say, on top of that. We'll let that dry completely, and then we'll sand it down slowly and get it ready for painting. So here we are next morning. Our plaster is set nice and hard, and it's in there, and you can feel it. It's still a bit rough. Birds are singing. So we've used about $9.20 I paid for the no more nails which stuck the back on. Then $13 for the plaster to go into the hole, so it's done. So it's been relatively cheap. The next bit is 2 sheets of sandpaper. They're about 50 cents each, $1. So you want to get it so that, I'm just going to use a book, but you want to wrap your sandpaper over something so you have a big flat piece. That's really important to get this finish on. And you're just going to go around and around till you get all that little bit off. take your time, because this is where people will be able to tell where you fix the hole. And once you've got that down, it comes down fairly quickly, pretty quickly, and you can feel that you've got rid of most of your bump. Then just go to a really fine sandpaper. And in fact, the bigger or the flatter the area you get, the better. Give it a good feel. Yep. That's come up lovely and flat. Now, remember I said keep the piece that you took out that's got the paint on from the wall? So what you're going to do is go off to Bunnings, and I'll give you these little tester pots, which are a tiny little bit. And then you can just paint over this the same colour that was. Put a little couple of coats over it. And then if I was you, I'd hang a picture frame here where it should have been in the first place, cover the hole, no one will ever see it. That's how you fix it. No one will find it.